A win for 49ers franchise lore. Thank you for waiting for me. I had to get some food from the hotel bar. They have great tacos here at the Renaissance Marriott LAX airport. And there's been a lot of work. The 49ers win this game 27-24 against the Rams. Their season remains on, I guess you could say it remains on life support. It certainly was on life support earlier on Sunday, but the 49ers somehow, some way got it done. This is one that's going to go down in the history books. This is one that 49ers fans will remember for a long, long time just because of the heroics involved and the stakes necessary and the fact that the 49ers and Rams absolutely hate each other. This was good old school LASF rivalry. Those of you who are unhappy with how the baseball season turned out with the 49ers and with the Giants and the Dodgers, well, the 49ers and the Rams, they've got this old school dislike for each other that I'm going to get into, but the 49ers had the laugh this time. Now, again, we know how the baseball season ended up, right? It went down to game 162 of the regular season where the Giants actually were able to punch their playoff ticket and win the NL West over the Dodgers, but then they lost to the Dodgers in the postseason. There's still actually a chance the 49ers and the Rams face off in the playoffs, but it's off to Dallas for the 49ers for a reprisal of the 1990s. This might blow your mind. It's the first time since 1998 that the 49ers and Cowboys have simultaneously qualified for the playoffs in the same season. So it's just too bad that Pat Summerall and John Madden are no longer around because I would really want to hear them call this 49ers game against the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it's just classic, right? You see the 49ers red and gold against the Cowboys silver and blue. So many people, I feel, grew up on this rivalry, whether it be at Kezar Stadium in the 70s, at Candlestick in the 80s, or again at Candlestick in Texas Stadium in the 90s, and now the rivalry will be renewed. But first, we talk about how this 49ers-Dallas matchup came to be in the first place, and it happened due to a walk-off in extra innings of Game 17. The walk-off delivered by the man on the screen right there. That is rookie 49ers cornerback Ambry Thomas. And Fred Warner said it best in my article. You know, Fred Warner is an emotional guy during the game when he's breaking down the 49ers team huddle, but usually at the press conference, he's even keeled. Today, you could feel his voice still kind of shaking in excitement of what had happened about 30 to 45 minutes sooner. And he started it up by saying, "Oh my goodness, I don't think you could draw it up any better than that, just like a storybook ending." He's been in positions so many times like that in the past couple games to make it in the biggest moment when we needed it most. That game was wild. That's a special one. That's incredible. Consider where Ambry Thomas has been and consider where he finished this game tonight. 49ers drafted Ambry in the third round of the 2021 draft, but he had taken a year off of college football in 2020 because of the coronavirus concerns. And there's more context to that. Ambry Thomas had colitis in 2019. It's a disease that caused him to lose 35 pounds. So he opted out for medical reasons of that 2020 season, but he still was able to build himself back up into enough shape, obviously, to be drafted into the NFL. And for a team like the 49ers to hold him in high enough regard, they picked him in the third round. But the thing is that Thomas missed the entire 2020 season. So he came in behind the 8 ball, and he wasn't exactly ready to contribute right away to the 49ers. So the season became exercise in frustration because this was obviously a team committing an NFL record amount of pass interference penalties early on. They were obviously a team that was short on quality cornerback play, and they had obviously used the third-round pick on Ambry Thomas, but he wasn't ready to play at the start of the season, and that caused a lot of people to pull their hair out. Well, fast forward to the absolute climactic moment of this 2021, and I guess now it's 2022, regular season. The 49ers needed to preserve at least a tie against the Rams so that their season wouldn't go down the drain. But the Rams don't like the 49ers, as we already knew but learned a little bit more of after this game. More on that in a bit. And the Rams were going for the kill shot. They went for Matthew Stafford to Odell Beckham Jr. on the streak pattern. They were attempting to end the 49ers. And in any other week, that play might have ended the 49ers. because they just simply weren't good in coverage. They gave up a lot of busts in coverage. They were a team that also committed a lot of defensive pass interference penalties. And they didn't trust Ambry Thomas until week 14 of the season, when he had to start by necessity against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm not even sure that the 49ers trusted Ambry Thomas then, but they sure needed him to grow up on the spot after he took over at that cornerback position due to injuries. And he grew up on the job to the point where he was in perfect position in the cover 3 to intercept Matthew Stafford and walk this one off and send the 49ers to the playoffs. I think we could probably find a video of this play. Up here it is. Why don't we bring it up and take a look at what got the job ultimately done for the 49ers at crunch time. 2 minutes left in overtime. All it will take is a stop. It's 1st and 10. The Rams go for the kill shot, and Ambry Thomas is there to deliver. See how excited everybody is. Dre Greenlaw, Kentavious Street. I mean, just the emotion that poured from the 49ers sideline. And then this shot right here, John Lynch pumping his fist. This was poetic, because I asked Ambry Thomas, and I'm going to keep this one up on the screen here for just a second. I asked Ambry Thomas after the game, what was the turning point for him? Because he was inactive for several straight weeks. The 49ers just weren't in a position to trust him out on the field. And Ambry told me that there was a practice around midseason when he was really struggling, in which he delivered interceptions on 2 straight series of practice. And after the second one, he said he looked over at John Lynch, who was watching from the sidelines, and Lynch just gave him a knowing nod, kind of like, keep that up. You're on the right track. Well, how fitting is it that Ambry Thomas remembers that moment when John Lynch gave him that nod at practice after those 2 interceptions? How fitting is it that the television cameras cut right to John Lynch, beaming with joy, beaming with pride, giving that fist pump up and down? I mean, I've never seen John Lynch this happy as the 49ers general manager. How fitting is it that the look from John Lynch happened in practice when Ambry Thomas turned it around a few weeks ago, and then you get the look again right here in the luxury suite after Ambry Thomas delivered the biggest 49ers interception of the season. So that was the walk-off winner for the 49ers. That's what made for the storybook ending. But there was a whole lot that happened before that to make it possible. First of all, a lot of people were wrong about Jimmy Garoppolo, not just on the entire season's level worth of stuff. Obviously, he was a good, efficient quarterback for the 49ers, good enough to push them to the postseason with a 10-7 record, despite the fact that multiple special teams failures, and despite the fact that it took the defense a while to get going this year. I mean, Garoppolo got the job done for the 49ers this regular season, but within the course of this game, it was insane. There were people trying to get Garoppolo benched in the first half, even though he was sharp. He was throwing the ball well. The 2 interceptions, and there was only one that happened in the first half, but both of the interceptions of this game came when he got hit. If you give Garoppolo time to throw, he will deliver. That's what happened in this game. The 49ers were able to beat the Rams despite the fact they were playing 2 backup offensive tackles. Trent Williams showed up at the stadium on Sunday morning doing all that he could to play in this game, but he just couldn't make it work. The elbow hurt too much. So the 49ers had to start Colton McKivitz at left tackle, a guy who had played only 3 right tackle snaps in his NFL career, 0 left tackle snaps, and all of those had come last season. McKivitz had been either on the practice squad or inactive for all of 2021. But McKivitz showed up, and yeah, he got beaten around the edge. Yes, Tom Compton, the other backup tackle on the right side, got beaten. Yes, Daniel Brunskill got beaten. Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo got drilled several times by Aaron Donald and other Rams defenders. So it was fascinating to me, and I guess this doesn't surprise me because some people are just so biased against Jimmy Garoppolo, and they call themselves 49ers fans, but they would rather see the team lose than Garoppolo be the one that leads them to victory. So many people were so upset throughout this game that Garoppolo was somehow, some way playing well, even with the ripped up tendon in his right thumb. But in the first half, I mean, it was almost like this attachment to their first half narrative. And the first half narrative was Jimmy Garoppolo will never be able to lead the 49ers to victory in this game. He wouldn't be able to lead them to victory even if his thumb was healthy. But since it's unhealthy, he needs to be yanked out of this game in favor of Trey Lance. Just look how bad he looks. the 49ers looked bad as a team in the first half. They were down 17-0 because the pass protection was failing, because Garoppolo couldn't overcome horrendous pass protection, and because the defense couldn't get off the field on third downs. Matthew Stafford was like 15 of 16 in the first half. So the 49ers couldn't do anything right, and that's even including special teams. But they turned this around as a team, and when Jimmy Garoppolo did have that good pass protection in the second half, he absolutely delivered in this game. So he turned around a lot of those narratives. He threw outside the numbers. He threw deep downfield. I mean, in that final drive, in the final minute, when he hit Deebo Samuel, that was just such a fantastic throw. I think Tim Kawakami for The Athletic, his piece was that the finest throw of Jimmy Garoppolo's 49ers career? I haven't watched the tape yet. I've seen the highlights. We'll put them up right now, actually. We'll probably have some of these on the 49ers Twitter. We can argue about that forever, but those were some impressive throws despite the fact that Garoppolo was obviously hurting today. This is on my Twitter. The 49ers today, never tell me the odds. I mean, think about the improbability of this win for the 49ers. They had a 0.4% chance of winning this game when they punted the ball away on 4th and 16. And their defense had all 3 timeouts, but the Rams had the ball with the touchdown lead and just over a minute to go. 0.4%, according to NFL Next Gen Stats. That was the lowest win probability overcome to deliver a victory in the NFL Next Gen Stats era. So the 49ers win probability was even lower than the Patriots was when they were down 28-3 to Kyle Shanahan's Atlanta Falcons, that Super Bowl about 5 years ago. So let that sink in. So much had to go right. The 49ers had to get 3 straight run stops. They had to get timeouts on all 3 of those plays. They did the job there. And then they turned around and Garoppolo led the 88-yard touchdown drive to tie in just 5 plays. It's staggering when you think of everything the 49ers had to do when this game was on the line. So we can now go to the 49ers Twitter and see if we could take a look at that. I don't know if they have the Deebo Samuel play. Unfortunately, I just have to go off of their highlights since I don't have the all-22 film yet. But we can watch Juwan Jennings and Jimmy Garoppolo. This was the game-tying touchdown for the 49ers. And this also wasn't an easy throw. Jennings is open over the middle, but Garoppolo has to get it over a rushing interior. I mean, here, let's just put this in slow motion. The Rams are going to bring 4 on the play, but there's a little bit of a stunt, and there's pressure coming up the gut that Garoppolo's not sure if Laken Tomlinson's going to be able to fully stymie it, and he doesn't. The pocket kind of collapses on him. It's all about the arm release, the throwing angle to get that out of there without the ball getting batted down. I mean, we've seen the 49ers put together long desperation drives this season, but some of them, like the one in Seattle, ended in heartbreak. When a defensive lineman like Carlos Dunlap was able to get his hands up at the line of scrimmage and knock the pass away. So nothing is a gimme, even though Jennings was open, but Garoppolo was able to deliver the pass. Juwan Jennings walked into the end zone, tied this game at 24 apiece. It took the 49ers something like 40 seconds to score. I'm going to have to look at the box score because they got the ball back with not too much time left. It might have taken a minute. It was almost like, oh boy, they didn't score too quickly, but no, that didn't happen. The 49ers actually were able to get the Eric Armstead sack that forced this game into overtime, and then Garoppolo led another drive that set up the game-winning score. So it was a game where the 49ers had their backs so far up against the wall at 17-0 and then again at 24-17, but they are able to deliver at the end. And, big picture takeaway, I think the 49ers are going to go as far as their pass protection takes them. They better hope that they have Trent Williams back next week because it wasn't sustainable to have McKivitz at left tackle and Tom Compton at right tackle. I know you're stuck with Tom Compton there. He's been a good run blocker. Hasn't been terrible in pass protection, but McKivitz at left tackle is such a massive drop-off from potentially the best player in football and Trent Williams. It's not even funny. And today the 49ers really paid for it, especially in the first half when they couldn't get going. I mean, your quarterback's hurt. At the very least, he needs good pass protection. Didn't have that in the first half. Now, stuff changed in the second half, and the big turning point in this game for the 49ers happened entering the 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. They were down 17-0. They weren't doing anything with the football. Their defense was getting roasted. But Garoppolo finally got into rhythm, and it was impressive to me because it happened in the straight drop back game where they had to face the Rams pass rush mano a mano. They didn't have the run game to neutralize the pass rush. And Garoppolo got it done. He led them down the field. Field goal before halftime. It's 17-3. Then the 49ers had won the initial coin flip, got the ball first in the second half. And that drive was a statement drive. Play of the game, in an underrated fashion, the play that nobody's going to be talking about except for probably me because I'll talk about it right now. But it's third down on that drive. It's 17-3. The 49ers absolutely need a touchdown to really get back in the flow of things. Aaron Donald comes up the middle, seemingly unblocked, and absolutely drills Jimmy Garoppolo on that third down. Somehow, some way, an injured Jimmy is able to kind of flick the ball out. Arm angles creative. Everything's on point. I believe it was to JaMychal Hasty. I don't care who it was to. It gained the first down in a situation that took, a tough as nails type of play from the quarterback to be able to absorb that hit from Aaron Donald and make sure that drive kept on going. A couple plays later, Deebo Samuel just rockets out of the backfield, scores up against that pylon. It's 17-10. Then the 49ers defense gets to work. Credit to D'Amico Ryans for using the right blitz bullets in the second half. He blitzed Fred Warner. He blitzed Dre Greenlaw. But at 17-10, it was Greenlaw who came in and smoked Matt Stafford and forced Matt Stafford all out of sorts. You guys, the 49ers hit Matt Stafford 13 times in this game. They sacked him 5 times. They hit him 13 times. It was an all-star performance from the defensive line, which has been surging. We talked about them this week. But also from D'Amico Ryans, who was able to dial up the right blitz bullets at the right time to hit Stafford, to affect the throws in the second half. And you saw the interception to Ambry Thomas. He underthrew that one, right? Odell Beckham Jr., if that one is, thrown properly, has a much better chance of catching the ball and walking this game off in the other direction. But the hits against Stafford accumulated as the game went on, and they really started happening at the start of that second half when it was 17-10, when D'Amico Ryans started dialing up some of those blitzes. And I thought he perfectly timed them. So that way, when the 49ers got the ball back at 17-10, that's when they took control of this arm wrestling match. They ran the ball 10 straight times down the field, down the Rams' throat, over and over and over again. Start of the game, Jalen Ramsey's puffing out his chest against Deebo Samuel after hitting him. Jalen Ramsey's not puffing out his chest on the 10-play drive where the 49ers are running the Rams into submission. And all of a sudden, this game started to look a lot like what previous 49ers-Rams matchups had looked like. Remember, the 49ers have beaten the Rams in 6 straight games now. This goes back all the way to October of 2019. And the common denominator has been that the 49ers have played bully ball in those games. They've been the more physical team than the Rams. So when they started grinding them into submission there in the third quarter, to me, that's when the scales tipped in this game. And then obviously the 49ers ran this play, which I think that we could definitely find on the 49ers Twitter. Just have to go back a little bit further. Yeah, this is it. Here we go. This was it. So remember, context is everything. This is after 10 straight runs. So it's 1st and 10. You see the Rams creeping up to the line of scrimmage. What do the 49ers do? Shotgun, hand off to Deebo Samuel, running aggressively. Look at the Rams crashing. Every single Rams defender in the picture. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of their 11 defenders are playing the run at this very moment because they have to respect Deebo Samuel's ability to run, and he's already pulling up to pass. And he hangs in there as he gets drilled, by the way. Drilled. That's like a jump. That's like a Jeff Garcia jump throw from Deebo Samuel. Look at that throw. Jumps up, throws. Jawan Jennings wide open. Here are the other 2 defenders. They're nowhere near position. And Jennings, he bobbled it. He gave people a heart attack, but he held on. And the 49ers tied this game. So, that was everybody was mad at Kyle Shanahan in the first half because his offensive line couldn't block. And that's not Shanahan's fault. That's not Jim Garoppolo's fault. I'm sure they were very okay with Kyle Shanahan for the play calling on that drive as the 49ers ground the Rams into submission and then punch. And then boom, you land a knockout punch with that touchdown trick play, Deebo Samuel to Jawan Jennings. After that, the 49ers dominated this game statistically in the second half. They ended up at 6.7 yards per play against the really good Rams defense. And the Rams were 4.1 yards per play. This was statistical domination for the 49ers. but they let the Rams back in with that interception, late on in the fourth quarter that, nullified at least 3 points, maybe 7. Garoppolo got drilled. There were like 3 free rushers on the play. Ball bounces off the hands of George Kittle. Jalen Ramsey makes a great pick. So the Rams get right back in the driver's seat. They're able to pick on a 49ers defense that's beleaguered in this game. I mean, the 49ers won this game despite playing down the stretch, playing a nickelback, Darqueze Dennard, who they added to the practice squad on Tuesday because K'Wan Williams wasn't available and Jaquiski Tart had hurt his groin. So Dante Johnson, backup nickelback, had to play safety. Dennard is playing nickelback. And the Rams only have one of the most prolific slot receivers, if not the most prolific slot receiver ever in Cooper Kupp operating against that defense. So the Rams got theirs. They scored a touchdown with Kupp, who was sensational on that drive. But the 49ers still had the ability to punch back. And punch back they did, even after all of the odds were stacked in their favor. And that was what that final drive was about. That's what that final Jawan Jennings touchdown was about. So it all came down to the post-field goal stand for the 49ers, and that's where the poetic symbolism for Ambry Thomas came to be. It was a walk-off in extra innings of Game 17 for the 49ers. So much going on. I think I kind of just recapped it all. I think I strung together the whole, jigsaw puzzle of this game. But the bottom line is the 49ers got the Rams, and I'm going to take a little break so I could see some of your questions. Again, question marks on your questions. Otherwise, it's going to be hard for me to see what's there. Yep, Harold has it nailed right here. What a game. It was a roller coaster of emotions for the 49ers over the Rams. Again, they went from a 0.4% win probability to winning this game, and that's a 0.4% chance of extending their season. So the 49ers season was on life support, and now they're in the playoffs. Yeah, Sean McVay celebrating in the end zone. If you're Sean McVay, you need to act like you've been there before. But the thing is, he hasn't really been there before. He hasn't beaten the 49ers since 2018. Sean McVay has never beaten the 49ers when the 49ers have their franchise quarterback in place. He's never beaten Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo beat him in 2017 when McVay ran out some reserves. McVay beat the 49ers twice in 2018 when the 49ers were playing Beathard, right? Maybe Mullins that last game. Yeah, it was Beathard first and then Mullins. But he hasn't beaten the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo. So it's obviously grating Sean McVay that he can't beat the 49ers when they're at closer to full strength, especially at the quarterback position. So he definitely didn't act like he was there before, like he'd been there before when he was celebrating out in the end zone. And you knew McVay and the Rams were in trouble when McVay was holding like a players meeting in the fourth quarter when the 49ers had all the momentum. You knew that the 49ers had them dead to rights, but they almost let the Rams back into a win. The Rams had a chance to close it out after that, but you knew things were moving in the 49ers' favor at that moment. This is a great point. Great job by Robbie and Kyle for taking over extra duties from Mitch when he got injured. So Mitch Wishnowsky, 49ers punter, suffered a concussion. That meant he was out of the game. And Robbie Gould, who had punted 3 times in his NFL career prior to this, the last time coming in 2007, 15 years ago, delivered. And every single yard mattered. Now, consider this. Robbie Gould had averaged 27 yards per punt back in 2007. He averaged 43 yards per punt, or maybe even 45 in this game. It was over 40, and the 49ers needed every single yard. Those were 2 huge punts. And also, they needed to nail the extra point and the field goal in overtime. And Mitch Wishnowsky is normally your holder, while Kyle Juszczyk is the backup holder. You have to credit Kyle Juszczyk and Robbie Gould for doing excellent fill-in work for the 49ers in this game. In fact, I thought that was poetic as well because it had been the special teams that had killed the 49ers in so many losses this season. It was the worst phase of the game for them. And the special teams wasn't good in the first half either. The special teams was leaking oil again in the first half. They were one of the many culprits for why the 49ers were down 17-0. But the special teams really stepped up even though they were shorthanded late. The defense stepped up even though they were shorthanded late, right? I talked about Darqueze Dennard having to play nickelback, Dante Johnson having to play safety. The 49ers were leaking oil again. They got it done, stepping up when they needed to with a shorthanded crew on special teams, a shorthanded crew on defense, and obviously a shorthanded crew on offense with 2 backup offensive tackles and Jimmy Garoppolo playing with that torn thumb ligament. So this was a heroic win in all senses of the word. The 49ers should be just buoyed with confidence moving forward, especially if they can start getting some guys back moving into the playoffs against the Dallas Cowboys. You're absolutely right. The 49ers made the appropriate adjustments. That was a hell of a team win for the 49ers. I think the physicality of the 49ers is going to be such an X factor in the playoffs. We're tougher than a lot of teams. Absolutely. They may be the toughest team in the NFL. They're definitely tougher than the Rams, who were trying to taunt George Kittle when it was 17-0, because George Kittle talked about this being a body bag game. Well, the Rams are trying to tell George Kittle, oh, it looks like we're putting you in a body bag. And George said, well, I wouldn't say that too quickly. There's still a lot of time left on that scoreboard. And then the 49ers came back and they won. And George was very happy to share that information to the press conference. And you could just tell the 49ers just hate the Rams. They hate the fact that Aaron Donald disrespected Deebo Samuel. They hate the whole LA vibe of the whole thing, all the star players and all the hype the Rams get. And they hate the fact that I think they haven't gotten as much publicity as the Rams, even though they've beaten them 6 straight times. There's more substance to the 49ers than to the Rams. There's a lot of style with the Rams. There's more substance to the 49ers. That's why you saw the 49ers team that was much more injury-riddled than LA today go into that stadium and win. By the way, that was essentially a home game for the 49ers. It was loud. That place shook when Ambry Thomas delivered the game-sealing interception. It literally shook. I felt a tremor in the press box. I would say 60 to 70% 49ers fans in there. It was impressive. It was embarrassing for the Rams. It really is a second home stadium for the 49ers. And as you saw, Shanahan's team needed every inch of support that it could get. Every little break in its favor that it could get in its favor, it needed in this game. And I think that crowd helped the 49ers win this one there toward the end. All right, let's take a look. Yeah, this is a good comment from Jason. This was game of the year, hands down. Best game I've seen the 49ers play this season. Showed a lot of heart with this one. Absolutely. It wasn't a perfect game, but it was, they were efficient offensively. They got the job done defensively, and they played well on special teams despite the fact that they were shorthanded. It was a gutsy win. That's all that you can really say about this one. How do the 49ers match up against the Cowboys? Well, I'm going to get into this much more over the course of the week. I want to focus this more on the Rams, but I think the 49ers match up well with anybody, but this goes back to what I was just talking about. I think they're more physical than maybe every other team in the NFL. They're definitely more physical than the Rams, who weren't able to handle any of the smoke today once it really started unraveling for them, right? Deebo Samuel was getting his shirt ripped off. He said if he would tucked in his shirt, he would have scored a touchdown on that play. But Deebo Samuel was punishing down the stretch. Elijah Mitchell, that guy can run, all right? That guy knows how to hit that outside zone crease. He was playing well down the stretch. The 49ers offensive line started working down the stretch. And the defensive line hit Stafford 13 times. So Stafford started missing his targets later in the game. Garoppolo was better than Stafford today. That's the only way that you could put it. Down the stretch of this game, Matt Stafford was missing receivers after he gotten drilled. Jimmy Garoppolo started hitting all of his receivers as the game went on when he wasn't getting drilled. So you give one of the quarterbacks time and, you see what happens toward the end of the game. When Stafford had time early in the game, he was also extremely efficient. But what matters is what these guys do in crunch time. And the 49ers have proven to be a team that can get the job done in crunch time. That means to me that they can match up well against the Cowboys. I'll get more into the X's and O's as this week progresses. Yep, I think Shanahan deserves the all caps right here. That was still a very, very impressive performance from Kyle Shanahan, play calling wise, managing the game flow. And do not discount the fact that Kyle Shanahan kept all 3 timeouts in his pocket because the 49ers needed every single one of them to get the ball back there at the end. If he burns a timeout sooner in the second half, the 49ers are screwed with a capital S. So Kyle Shanahan managed this game pristinely. What are teams doing to slow down Bosa? And what are some of the things that D'Amico can do to counter? Notice the Raiders are running stunts today. They get Max Crosby free. I think D'Amico's doing a great job to counter. First of all, Bosa is taking some triple teams. Today he even took a triple team. Second of all, 13 hits and 5 sacks when Bosa only has a half a sack. That means that guys all across the board are getting the job done. So the 49ers, fine. You can't stop another team from triple teaming Nick Bosa if that's what they decide to do. But you have to get production from elsewhere. And over the past 5 games, the 49ers have gotten production from elsewhere. Arden Key hit the quarterback 3 times today. Jordan Willis was in there. D'Amico Ryans dialed up the right blitzes. So the 49ers are doing what they need to do to have a balanced pass rush. Those guys are delivering. It's up to the secondary to bridge the gap. And for a while today, the secondary beaten up, right? No K'Wan Williams. Cooper Kupp was getting his own. Darquez Dennard had to be in the game. Dante Johnson, is a good Swiss Army knife backup, but he gets burned. Even though that secondary was leaking a little bit of oil, I mean, Jimmy Ward was losing to Cooper Kupp. You got to give Cooper Kupp credit. Ward had dominated that matchup in the past. Kupp got it done today, but only, to a certain extent. The 49ers ultimately made the plays in the secondary they needed to make. Stafford went really deep twice, and he got picked off twice. Emmanuel Mosley back off of IR. Ambry Thomas, game-sealing interception. So the 49ers defensively are executing the formula. They may not be quite as overpowering as 2019, but they're getting the job done. And up front, I think it starts there. I think they already are, countering to teams trying to slow down Nick Bosa. All right. Let's see. We got some Rams fans in here bragging about being NFC. You say that you're NFC champions. You're only NFC West champions. All right. I don't see many more questions. I see somebody celebrating the 49ers 6-0 record. Aziz Al-Shire might be back next week. We're going to see the Rams play the Cardinals, 49ers play the Cowboys. There's going to be a lot going on. Any chance that Jeff Garcia, this is from Harold, thanks for the tip. Any chance that Jeff Garcia would be available for a follow-up interview? Maybe some point during the playoffs. I'm not going to get him on 2 weeks in a row. Don't want to. He gave us a lot of his time the other day, an hour and 10 minutes. But yeah, it would be great to hear Jeff Garcia. I think before the Super Bowl, if the 49ers make it there. We'll get Steve Young on the channel too. I'll text Steve Young. Maybe we get Jerry Rice on, Jeff Garcia on. We'll make this a lot of fun for you guys. But yeah, Jeff was great on Thursday, so thanks to him for coming on. I'm not so sure about this. I mean, people said the Rams would dominate the 49ers, and they didn't. I think that there's so much parity in the NFC, in the NFL as a whole. You can't count on anybody to dominate anybody. I mean, it's the 49ers can play with anybody. Now, you could also get blown out by anybody if you mess up at crucial junctures of the game, at specific spots. If there are fracture points, you can get blown out. And the Cowboys are good. They can blow teams out, but the 49ers can also blow teams out if the Cowboys slip in certain areas. In all likelihood, you're going to have a competitive game next week. Yes, Reggie, you're absolutely right. Alex Mack has been a huge stabilizing force for the 49ers O-line. There is less interior pressure. The problem is now at those tackle spots, especially while Trent Williams is out. Well, you guys know this is more stream of consciousness. The first, video that I make after the game, I have to go watch the film. Once I watch the tape, I'm going to organize my thoughts, create a bunch of other videos. But Jimmy Garoppolo was awesome down the stretch in this game, proved a lot of people wrong. B, the 49ers were able to do that, even though they're playing 2 backup offensive tackles and a nickel back that they signed to the practice squad on Tuesday, and Dante Johnson at safety. I mean, you just have to consider the improbability of what just happened. There was a point where the 49ers only had a 0.4% win probability, and they somehow got it done. It mainly was correlated to when Garoppolo had time to throw. They pounded 10 straight runs in the third quarter. They bruised the Rams. They're tougher than the Rams. It showed up again. Shanahan is now 7-3 against McVay. By the way, McVay entering this game was 45-0 when he had led at halftime. He's now 45-1 when he's led at halftime because the 49ers came back on him. 49ers are going to go as far as their pass protection takes them. I'll talk more about that this week. Defensive line is showing shades of 2019. And Ambry Thomas, you talk about rush and coverage mixing together. Well, that was some poetic symbolism because he got that final piece of the puzzle done with that interception. And, I talked about Ambry Thomas earlier in the video. That was impressive with a capital I. This guy was a afterthought earlier this season. People just figured, maybe he'll be around for 2022 after he has some development time. But no, Ambry Thomas in a pinch came through for the 49ers after last week's benching of Josh Norman. Remember, Thomas was on the COVID list this week, and he delivered that for the 49ers. So that was impressive. A walk-off in extra innings of Game 17. Subscribe to the channel. I'm going to go watch some tape. I don't really sleep after games like this, so I do appreciate the subscription, bringing you all the content I can. Go ahead and subscribe to The Athletic. Check out the article on Ambry Thomas. We got stuff on Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, it was heroic stuff from the 49ers in this game. There's going to be more content coming tomorrow. Appreciate all of you. Thanks again. Everybody have a good night. And maybe we look at one more question. Maybe not. Yeah, this is good. Cowboys haven't beaten a 10-win team. Funny stuff. Here's a question. Jimmy or Lance? Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo. Trey Lance is the future. Jimmy Garoppolo is the now. This has been a ridiculous debate all season long. Lance is a raw rookie. Jimmy Garoppolo gives the 49ers the best chance to win, even with a torn-up thumb. As you saw in the game today, Garoppolo is underappreciated. That's the fact of the matter. Maybe that won't last all too long, although he'll have his haters for sure. People just seem jealous of him. But, he took a thrashing on social media all season long. It's happened throughout the course of his 49ers career, but today was real validation for Jimmy Garoppolo, who showed up, beat the Rams on the road. I mean, really, really helmed the 49ers victory down the stretch when they needed to come back in that game. I mean, it was a team win, don't get me wrong, but Jimmy Garoppolo was a huge part of it, and it's a good thing the 49ers had him on their team. The quarterback plan is working. Lance is developing. Garoppolo led them to the playoffs. That's all you can ask for. They have a spot at the table. They're in the tournament. We'll see what happens next. Everybody take care. Subscribe, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.